Hi, everybody. Welcome to the QB School. I'm JT O'Sullivan. Today, Q&A, got 4 really good questions. I'm really excited about this. We're going to talk about the strengths, weaknesses, zone coverage. We're going to talk about some of the favorite players I ever played against, maybe even throw in a little highlight if you can make it all the way to the end. So some good stuff. I'm excited. Let's dive into it. Welcome to the QB School. All right, first question. Could you explain the strengths and weaknesses of different types of zone defenses and how to attack them effectively? Josh. That's a good question. Absolutely. Now, this could be a huge, long series, but I'm going to break it down to its absolute core, the essence of what I think the differences between the main zone defenses are. And so we're going to talk about 3 different types. And I want you to think about this same way that we talk about a lot of reads and plays. It's middle of the field closed, middle of the field open. So we're going to start with cover 3, then we're going to talk about cover 2, then we're going to talk about cover 4. And what that means in essence for zone-wise, when we're talking terminology, that just means how many people are deep. So when you hear cover 3, that means that there are 3 defenders deep. And then when you hear cover 2, that means that there's only 2 defenders deep, 2 safeties. And then when you hear cover 4, that usually means that there's 4 defenders deep and it's quarters coverage. So the field is broken up into 4 quarters. So we'll see exactly what that looks like. Let's start with cover 3 here. Got this little diagram, be able to show us the strengths and the weaknesses of what's going on here. So again, here's cover 3. Cover 3, 3 defenders deep. 1, 2, 3. And all it is the deep third. And so the strengths of this defense is really the box area. So this is the box usually described from usually the interior players. So what this means is you can usually get 8 guys in the box. This strong safety is kind of a tweener guy. So he can come down and be a force contained player in the run game. So those are the strengths of it. The weaknesses, pass-wise, are really the seams. This little seams area right here. So what you see a lot of teams do, like the logo for the QB school, is you're trying to run seam routes up into these seams. And really what that means is you're trying to put a 2-on-1 on defenders. So you want to be able to create as many 2-on-1s as possible. And usually the first 2-on-1 is on that free safety. So you want to stretch this free safety. And depending on where the ball is, very rarely, especially in the pro game, is it not on a hash. So right here, this diagram is a little skewed. So depending on where this player plays, does he play over the ball? Does he play over the field? So what I mean by that is if the ball was on the left hash, would the free safety be right there or would he be lined up on the ball? If he lines up over the ball, you already know that you're going to have more space to that field seam. Another weakness of cover 3 is this is a balanced formation. So what I mean by that is 2 and 2 receivers. If you go 3-by-1, so let's eliminate this guy. Now where does he line up? Where does that middle field player line up? Does he line up, split the formation? Does he still line up over the ball? Because now we can do 4 verticals from a 3-by-1, which basically you're still attacking the same seams. It just gets there differently, and they have to align differently for the run game and what those pass games look like out of a 3-by-1 set. Because if they don't align properly, we can screen them. We can do all sorts of different things. So the essence, the weaknesses pass game are these seams, and then usually you can get anything in the flat you want. Because these players, linebackers from the box, not going to be able to run out to the flat. Strong safety coming down is going to really struggle to cover any sort of quick out or hitch by these flat defenders. Another thing you'll see oftentimes versus 3 deep is just slants. We want to put a 2-on-1 on these defenders. So a little slant with a flat. Again, 2-on-1. You're putting a 2-on-1 on this player right here. A 2-on-1 on this flat defender. They can't be right. So that's what you're always trying to get in zone coverage. So again, cover 3, the seams, anything in the flat. You're going to know that they're probably going to have a numbers advantage in any sort of run game. So you got to be careful with that. But again, cover 3, we're thinking seams and flats for the weaknesses. The strengths are they get an extra player into the run game. So that's cover 3. Now let's get into cover 2. The differences, again, cover 3, middle field closed, 3 deep defenders. Cover 2, 2 deep, middle field open now. Changes a lot for the quarterback usually, but there's only 2 deep defenders. So cover 2, we have 2 deep defenders, usually the 2 safeties. Doesn't have to be, but they have a big responsibility. They have to cover that half the field in both directions. And depending on where the ball is and what level of football you play at, it's really hard to do that sometimes. In the pros, it's a little bit easier. Again, with the tight hashes, makes the field a little bit more balanced most of the time. But again, half field, half field. So again, this is going to be the strengths of this defense is going to be this run support from the corners. You got 5 players underneath. Where in cover 3, you only had 4 players underneath. Now we have 5 players underneath to take away these mid-range kind of shallow passes. Again, just give you a different look as far as what's going on underneath. Now we have 5 players underneath as opposed to 4 in cover 3, but we only have 2 deep on the back end. So there's all sorts of space back here. We can see the middle seam, and then these hole shots are what these are called, hole shots, when you play against cover 2. So one of the biggest things for cover 2 is what these corners do. Do they reroute inside? Do they most of the times wide receivers will have to take must outside release routes? And so do they get pushed to the sideline? Are they rerouted? Are they trying to get pushed inside, funneled inside, so that safety, if this wide receiver is lined up way out here and he has a free release up the hole and this half field player is way in tight, this is going to be an easy completion for most quarterbacks. Again, you're going to cover 2 weaknesses, middle of the field. So you see those tight ends working the seam, see any route over the middle of the field, and then these hole shots out on the outside. Everything underneath is going to be really difficult. Anything to the flat, you're not going to be able to come out and just throw that flat right there. There's going to be a corner sitting right there for you. So you got to be really aware who the flat defender is. If that flat defender is a corner, a rolled up corner, meaning that the corner usually plays a little bit further off, closer to like 7, 8. Now he's down, rolled, coming downhill. He's involved in the run game, and he's a rolled cloud corner. You're not going to be able to throw anything in the flat. Can't throw a hitch. Can't throw anything where this guy sits down. In fact, most routes are cloud adjust, meaning that if you have a hitch on right here and it's a cloud corner or a rolled corner, he's coming downhill, this now turns into a fade to take advantage of this hole shot. So again, a lot of wide receivers need to know what's happening with these corners on the outside. But again, the essence, it's just math. We have 2 defenders deep, 5 underneath. In cover 3, we had 3 defenders deep, 4 underneath. So simple numbers game, but again, really hard to play straight up cover 2 zone nowadays. The difference too is you'll hear Tampa 2 oftentimes, and that takes this middle linebacker. That's essentially cover 3. So Tampa 2 takes this middle linebacker, and now he has the middle area with these guys still splitting the difference 50-50. So Tampa 2 is a weird variation of cover 3, almost like a 2.5 coverage. Again, need really good underneath players, these hook defenders, to be able to play that at a high level. Think Rondé Barber back in the day with the Bucks and Derek Brooks. So again, cover 2, the other thing about cover 2, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because this is a zone coverage question, but the thing I like in cover 2 is 2-man, where now these defenders underneath, all 5 of these defenders underneath are playing man coverage, and you have these 2 zone defenders over the top. You see this in long yardage a lot. So they would be locked up here. They would be locked up right here, right here, right here on the back, right here on the tight end, right here on the wide receiver. They play inside leverage, bump coverage, really difficult to deal with, hard to throw the ball against. So again, cover 2, 2 safeties deep. The holes are going to be middle of the field and the hole shots on the sideline. Really hard to throw anything underneath. Got to be able to come out and throw checkdowns if you don't like exactly what you see. But again, you're always going to be attacking the middle of the field. Take advantage of those 2 safeties deep in straight cover 2, which you don't see very often. The next one and the last one we're going to talk about is cover 4. So again, these zone coverages, all they talk about is how many people are deep. 4 guys deep. Usually the 2 safeties and the 2 corners dividing up the back end in quarters coverage. So let's see it with the diagram. Again, we see the easy 4 quarters coverage on the back end. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really simple. Now there's 4 guys deep and only 3 underneath. So again, just what you think. Oftentimes in quarters, you're going to have everybody, they're going to try to rally and keep everything in front of them. But again, there's only 3 defenders underneath now. The 3 linebackers underneath. So you're going to be able to throw anything you want in the flats. Anything you want all the time. And really anything you want underneath in the short area. Quick little slants, any sort of hitches, stick routes. You hear stick routes all the time. Anything underneath, you're going to be able to get a chance to take advantage of this. Quarters, the other thing that often is a quarters beater is any sort of post. So you got to think here. This defender, these 2 inside safety defenders are usually keen on the offensive number 2. So right here, they go usually defense's number outside in. So 1 receiver on the outside, 2 receiver on the inside. These zone defenders in quarters, the safeties, will oftentimes be keying the number 2. So when that number 2 goes vertical to a certain point, it usually turns into some variation of man coverage. So if this number 2, let's say we're playing strong safety, this number 2 comes up 10 yards and runs a corner. Well, who has him? After a certain depth, oftentimes it becomes a variation of 4 match or quarters man. So this becomes almost like a locked on. Now he's going to run with that. So what happens? We're going to run a post right behind him to that voided zone. So some variation of scissors or just a big post with a corner is going to put all sorts of stress on quarters coverage. Now, could they pass it off really easily? Yeah, absolutely. But these guys are running full speed, and this happened in live action. And these guys are locked on, and nobody wants to get beat and embarrassed. So how they match these things up, how they pass these things off are some of the most important things about quarters coverage. So again, quarters beaters, we're going to come out and try to throw a post. We're going to throw anything we want underneath, flats, quick outs, hitches. You know, it's a little bit harder to get a slant in quarters because you're going to have these guys sitting right here, these safeties. So again, you don't want to get your guys hurt here. This is a big hit coming at you. So it's a little bit harder to throw slants, but anything underneath in these flat areas is going to be wide open. And then to take a shot down the field, we're going to try to throw posts over the top and occupy those underneath safeties with either little in routes or double posts. Again, you come out, imagine if we ran a double post down here, that free safety is going to grab that one, and then we're going to have the corner leveraged. He's going to try to keep outside leverage, and we're going to have all this area to throw a post to. So again, just like any zone, you want to put 2-on-1s on guys, whether it's posts, whether it's in a post. You know, you're trying to put 2-on-1s on guys in zone coverage to stretch them, make them make a bad decision. But again, 4 verticals, quarters, going to be really hard unless you like a one-on-one matchup on the outside because they're going to have 4 guys covering 4 guys running right down there. So again, zone coverage. We're going to think, how many people are in the back end? What's the back end look like of the coverage? 2 guys deep, cover 2. 3 guys deep, cover 3. 4 guys deep, some variation of cover 4. And all that is, now you can run all sorts of different nuances about which of those people are deep. And you can also combo it with man coverage. But if you're just trying to understand the core principles of zone coverage, you're going to look at how many people are deep. 3, 2, 4. And you go from there, and all of a sudden you start having a better understanding of all these zone coverages, and then you understand the weaknesses in them. Again, cover 3, we're going to try to hit the seams, got the flat areas. Cover 2, we're going to try to hit the middle of the field, the hole shots. Quarters, we're going to throw anything we want underneath, except slants. And then to take shots, we're going to try to throw posts, put 2-on-1s on those safeties over the top. And so little nuance, things like that, but that's a nice general overview to how to better understand zone coverages, the strengths and weaknesses. Very nice question. All right, next question from Freeland 1787. JT, can you give an in-depth explanation of how option choice routes work in the next Q&A video? Boom, here we are, next Q&A video, option choice routes. So there's no easy answer here. Every offense is going to be a little bit different. And even the word option choice can mean different things in different offenses. So what I mean by that is some option places allow you to run up, turn around, run like a hitch, button hook, old school button hook, turn around. You can go in, out. Some offenses allow you to go up, hook, in, out, slant. Some allow you to go to the seam. Some allow you to give a little nod and go up the middle of the field. And so the essence, though, I think what you're trying to get to is what is an option route? And so there's really 3 different things that most core option routes have. You can either run up, turn around. You can either run up and run in, or you can run up and run out. So let's just assume the depth is 5 yards. Every team is going to be a little bit different. Every level of football is going to be a little bit different. But let's say it's 5 yards. Now, when would you run up and turn around? Usually in zone coverage where people are just bailing out of there and you're wide open, you want to run up and just turn around, hitch, make it really easy. That's the easiest one. That's the one we want all the time. If that's available, take that. Now to run an in, it's a little bit different. Every team is a little bit different, and then every option runner is a little bit different. The easiest one to do is if your defender is man-to-man and outside of you with leverage, you're going to run up and run in away from the leverage. But at the same time, that defender wants you to do that. They're giving you the in because they want you to do it. So you're going to come up your 5 yards, give him a little move, and then run in away from him because you have the leverage. But some really good runners will come up, set him up, give him a little nod, and then cross his technique or cross his leverage. And that's where you'll see a lot of really, really big plays. Now that's next level, master's level stuff, option running routes. But again, you want to come up and take what the defense has given you. So if it's inside leverage and the ball's on the inside here, we're going to come up, inside leverage on the defender, come up, threaten him, give him a move, and then run out. And that's going to create space. But you can also come up, give him a little move. Now he knows you're going to do that too. So he's going to come up, give him a little move, and then cross his face and cross his technique. And now all of a sudden you really got him. So again, it's usually based on just take what the defense gives you. If they drop off with zone, you're going to hook up. If they give you that in break because they're outside leverage, take the in break. If they give you that out break because they're inside leverage, take the out break. But then if you run it a lot and you have a connection with your quarterback and you understand that there's big plays out there, you can run up. He's giving you inside leverage. Give him a little out because you know he's thinking out, and then cross his face, cross his technique. Don't get grabbed, and there's nobody usually in there because he's giving you that out because he knows he can close out there. That's his responsibility. There's nobody in there if you cross his technique, cross his leverage. So again, that's just normal option routes. And then the question involved a juke route. I've also heard it called a choice route before. And so usually juke routes in most offenses, you can run in, settle your feet, and then go in, out. It's also called the jerk route sometimes because it'll make the defenders look like a jerk. And then I've also seen a choice route where you can come in, set it, and then go straight up the middle of the field to almost separate. And imagine running a choice route in quarters coverage, which we just saw. Those two safeties in the middle of the field, they go out, or cover two, they go out. You come over the ball, settle your feet, and then take the middle of the field. So again, every offense is going to be different. Many offenses at the highest levels will have all those options. An option route, a juke, a choice, different ways to take advantage of a slant incorporated if you're coming out of the backfield. So all those little nuanced details of it, but the essence of it is 3 options. Hook up, run in, run out. And basically you just want to go away from the near defender's leverage. So if they're giving you the hitch, take it. If they're giving you the in, take it. If they're giving you the out, take it. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a lot. It's hard to technique. It's hard to teach. Oftentimes the whole team will practice option routes when really there's only 2 or 3 guys on a roster that you know will be the option route runners. But again, that's it. Kind of a general overview of what the differences are and how you go about teaching it, talking about it. Just run away from leverage. Take what the defense gives you. Very nice question. Appreciate it. All right, next question. Paul. Hey, JT, I love your work and missed the long form analysis on Patreon. This stuff is great too, so thank you. Paul, the long form stuff is coming back soon. Trying to get over to Patreon a lot more. I appreciate the support very much. I have a question regarding drop back footwork, not including RPOs or play action. Are drop back steps always tied to the first route read on a play? This was the way I was taught, and that you add a hitch every time you move through your progressions. The reason I ask is that I've seen some funky stuff from some QBs, especially Mahomes. I often can't tell if his drop back is actually tied to a route or he's just sort of dropping back however he feels, kind of like old school QBs. Any insight into philosophies and merits of different drop back systems is appreciated. Thanks. Paul, appreciate the question. I really appreciate the support over at Patreon. It makes this channel go, so thank you so much as we continue to hope it grows. So from there, dropbacks. Yeah, I was taught pretty similar to where I'm not going to say that it's always the case, though. And I will say that I think Mahomes gets away with a lot of things, but I'm going to guess because Andy Reid is from the West Coast and runs a hybrid type of West Coast offense, that there absolutely are drops tethered to the first read. I would like to say, though, that I don't really like to think of it as hitching to go through your progression. So if you're at a 5-step drop, that usually means that first read is somewhere around 10 yards, because you want that to time up with the quarterback's drop, with the wide receiver running a route, or the tight end running a route. But when you hitch to go through your progressions, you really don't want to hitch, because I think that feels, or the terminology that I like to use is not hitching, because that kind of implies you're hitching forward. And really you just want to reset your feet at the, and not necessarily hitch up unless you have to with edge pressure. Then absolutely hitch up into the pocket. But you don't really want to hitch up. You just want to reset your feet. So reset kind of through your progressions, 1 to 2 to 3 to check down to whatever. And so, yes, the answer in essence is yes. Most offenses, the footwork is tethered to the first read. From there, you also have the pass pro tethered to the footwork. So if it's a quick game pass, you're going to have the pass protection set really close to the line of scrimmage. If it's a deep drop, 7 steps under center, then the tackles and front core guys know that they can give a little bit more depth, get a little bit more space to make the pass protection easier, pass off stunts, see blitzes coming. So again, all those things are always tethered together. The other thing that's always interesting, in my opinion, to talk about with drops is that there's never bump coverage on the quarterback, meaning that there's never going to be a defender who's going to push the quarterback in his drop. He's always going to have that rhythm and timing of a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, where if you're playing receiver and now there's a bump or corners up in your face or a safety's down in your face if you're a slot receiver, well, now you got to understand, what does that mean for the rhythm and timing of this play? And at quarterback, you got to be able to realize that too. I used to always think that if you get bump coverage, that's an added hitch. So say you're throwing a 15-yard comeback on the outside to a wide receiver, and your drop is a 5-step drop from under center. Well, now it's a 5-step drop under center and a hitch to throw that thing, because that bump coverage equals a hitch. Or say you have a slant on, 3-step footwork under center. Well, if they're in bump coverage, you got to now give them 3 and a reset, 3 and a hitch, 3, whatever your system terminology is. That bump coverage adds a little bit more to it. I think Patrick Mahomes has kind of taken the hybrid even further in West Coast stuff. So this is where I see the footwork evolution coming a little bit. Now with the RPO, because the way that you ask the question is you kind of try to separate the RPOs and play actions and the footwork, but I think that they're a little bit more interconnected than we probably all assume. So a lot of these drops now are what I would call hybrid drops. So depending on what the read is, the footwork changes. So especially in gun, it's a lot easier to get away with a little bit looser footwork. So I've often had it called, from gun, is it a 3-step drop? Is it a shuffle? Is it a 3 no hitch? Is it a 3 reset? Is it a bounce? Can you just hold the ball? You see all these guys do it differently. And really it comes down to what works best for the quarterback. What's the coordinator or play caller or position coach allowing you to do, the freedom to allow you to do? I used to hate to throw from gun 3-step no hitch. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. So I would do what would call like a shuffle. I would shuffle and then hitch. So, because I wanted the hitch, because it's a hell of a lot easier to throw a ball a 10-yard speed out with a hitch than it is to do 3 no hitch. Like, why would you do that? I just never understood. So it made sense to me to kind of shuffle and get a hitch. And so that's kind of the hybrid footwork that I think goes into a lot of the plays nowadays. And depending on where you might not know what your first read is until you get the snap and confirm the coverage. So that might be another thing where you see hybrid footwork that kind of looks like he's just dropping back to whenever, when in reality he's dropping back seeing, okay, if this isn't my first read, then I got to change my footwork. And it's really not that hard to do. It sounds more complicated than it is, but I like to think of it as more just hybrid drops. But again, I think the most interesting thing for your question is, yes, oftentimes the drop is tethered to the first read. But from there, everything is kind of up for grabs for what kind of system you're in, what kind of technique that the position coach is teaching, what do they want from the quarterback, has the pass protection tethered to all these concepts. So all those things kind of come together to say, yeah, quarterback needs to get the right drop to have a chance to throw that first read consistently all the time. So thank you very much. Great question. All right, last one here. Howard Martin. This show is incredibly valuable. I appreciate it. I truly thank you for the information you're providing. I have 2 questions. All right, double barrel. What was your favorite regular season play that you were a part of? I'd love to find it on tape somewhere. I know the NFL has it. Wink, wink. Got it for you, Howard. Hold tight. And 2, name the 3 best players you ever played with and the 3 best players you ever played against. So really 3 questions. Absolutely love the show. So first thing I'm going to do is do the best players you ever played with. Best players I ever played with: Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Calvin Johnson. Didn't get a chance to play that long with Brady when I was on the practice squad with the Patriots, but Brett Favre, Tom Brady, different level when I was playing. Calvin Johnson was the best guy I ever threw to. Simply just a freak, Megatron. As soon as he walked on the field, was on like a different level. And so you know how guys are freaks when they stand out. Freaks among freaks, because everyone's kind of a freak who's on an NFL field, but to be faster, more athletic, more dynamic, Calvin was just on a different level on the perimeter. Then the 3 top guys I ever played against, I'd have to say Brett Favre, played against him a number of times. Peyton Manning, had Peyton Manning go off on I want to say it was a Thanksgiving Day night game one time when I was in New Orleans. Made it look like he was throwing routes on air. And then the best defender I ever played against, Junior Seau, played against him in, I want to say, my rookie or second year. He was in Miami, I think, and we played against each other, and he hit me early in a preseason game. It was pretty surreal on many different levels. So those are the 3 guys playing against. I think the other defender that I would throw in that category, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, those guys were on a different level when the Buccaneers were rolling, and I was in New Orleans playing in that NFC South. So, again, those are the guys that I played against that I thought were just on a totally different level. It was surreal to play with one of your heroes. One of my heroes growing up was Brett Favre. Fun to see Tom Brady at the highest level, and then Calvin was just on a different level as far as what we were doing offensively. Then my favorite play. What was your favorite regular season play you were up against? I'm going to set the context. Then I actually have the video. Okay, route was called a tight 8. So an 8 route in the digit system is usually a post, but there's any number of different variations of a post. You can have a burst post, a big post, a short post, an angle route, a tight 8. So all these things kind of played in, and I had never been in the digit system when I first did this. I was with Mike Martz in Detroit. So week 2, Kitna gets his bell rung. He's off to the side. He's the starting quarterback. I'm the backup. But when I won this backup job over the camp, there were a handful of plays that really allowed me to kind of have a good camp. And one of them was the bullets concept, and the other one was scissors concepts, which is really just a post and a corner. Well, this tight 8 I had never thrown before in my life. And the essence of it is, I want to say, I might have to go back and look it up in the actual playbook, but I want to say that the split was like a 5-yard split. So the wide receiver would be 5 yards away from the tackle, and you would be on the near hash. So whatever side the boundary was, or the short side, is where we're going to throw the tight 8. And you want to throw this tight 8, which is essentially a post route, into cover 2. So this video is perfect. We talked about cover 2. The holes for cover 2, middle of the field. Well, this post goes right at the middle of the field. And the beautiful thing about it is the split, and then the route itself, I want to say, was 18 to 20 yards of a stem. So you're just going to run straight 20 yards. And the quarterback is going to take 7 steps and throw it right down the tracks, the hashes, 25 yards deep on the guy's face. And you got to trust it. You recognize cover 2, middle field open, 7-step drop, throw it. No, there is no read. That is the read. And so we tried it in camp, and I just couldn't make the throw. 7-step drop, 25 yards straight down the field, total trust. I used to call it the trust route. Had no chance of ever completing it, even routes on air. So what happens? I get in the second week. Mike Martz, early when I'm in there, calls tight 8. And I remember being in the huddle being like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So from there, I just trust it, let it go, 7 steps. Not the exact technique I'd want. As far as at the top of the trout, you'll see I'm a little toesy. But again, throw it, let it go. One of my favorite throws that I ever made in my career. The other part that made it memorable was that Roy Williams, the wide receiver, got his helmet pulled off, kept running. So pretty cool. Let me show it to you. Here we go. So here it is. Tight 8 on the boundary. There's Roy's feet at the top of the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hitch, let it go. Super toesy, right up on his face. 25 yards, I hope. There comes the helmet. Go get a first down, Roy. Keep it going. I think nowadays this play is blown dead. But again, ball's on the 33. 7-step drop. Again, just a little, I don't love the heel click right there. I'm mad at myself. Heel clicky right there, toesy. But again, the rhythm of it, 7-step drop, let it go right down the hash, right down the track, 7 steps, whoop, let it go right up on his face. One of my favorite throws. So that was one of my favorite throws from regular season. Had a lot of fun seeing something that I practiced, really struggled with. Mike Martz didn't hesitate. We're calling it right away. It's open. Recognized, middle field open. Let it go right down the pipe. Big completion. Helmet ripped off. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Lots of stuff. Broke down zone coverage. Broke down some drop back stuff. My favorite plays. Some of the best guys I played against. I really appreciate the support of the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.